30 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Phlogistinator is a primary weapon for the pyro, and replaces the stock flamethrower. It's been kind of riffed on as the brain dead WM1 pyro weapon for about as long as it's been in the game, but that title really only applies to the back burner, since the stereotype of the Phlog being a WM1 pyro weapon has kind of died off over the years. I'm going to go over what the stats of the Phlog are, and how you should use it effectively. If you have more awareness than the average Gibbous Vision Pyro, you should be able to see that the Phlogistinator's first stat is that it builds something called Umph as you deal damage, and it requires 300 points of fire damage to be dealt before this Umph is available for activation, and in MVM it takes 1200 points of fire damage to be dealt to robots before it can be activated, or 3000 in the case of tanks. Umph, when activated by either taunting or pressing your Alt fire button, has you enter a taunt that makes you invincible for the duration of the taunt, and when the taunt is finished, grants you a full critical hit boost for about 8 seconds, which is the length of an Uber charge, essentially turning everything that comes close to your flames into a smoldering pile of ashes faster than they can say "Oh there's me here." The next stat is that the Phlog does not gain random critical hits, which isn't a big problem seeing as how random crits on the flamethrower generally do not do much, and because random crits are disabled in competitive. But if you're using this thing in a competitive setting, then either you're way too committed to Holocaust jokes or you don't have a degreaser for some reason. The second downside is that you do not get air blast, meaning that you cannot reflect rockets, stickies, and pipes period, and cannot extinguish teammates, but exchange the air blast for the aforementioned crit boost that you get with the Umph. So, now that you know the stats of this phlogiston musket, how do you actually use the damned thing? Well, for starters, the Phlogistinator, as much as you want to believe you can WM1 into a crowd of enemies and kill them all without the crits, is not a direct combat weapon. You treat it like an ambush weapon, kind of like a back burner, but it actually works when you fucking want it to. Unlike the back burner, you build up your Umph first, get behind enemies, activate the Umph, and then you destroy them all from behind. It's a great way to clear out capture points or payload carts if you can position yourself correctly, since everyone will be demolished before they can react. Now, if you're playing even remotely seriously, I would never suggest using the Phlog, since you're trading away Air Blast, an extremely useful tool for stuffing out Uber pushes, extinguishing teammates, trapping bonk scouts, and pushing enemies off of a capture point, for what is essentially a personal crit screeg. If you're not really trying, though, that's a completely different story, since you obviously don't give half a flying fuck about what you use. If you're concerned about secondaries, the Scorch Shot, Flare Gun, and Shotgun all work fine, or replace the shotgun with the reserve shooter if you're concerned with switch time, but you obviously can't use the main benefit of that fucking meme of a gun, since there isn't any air blast you can use to combo. The Man Melter also works if you really are bugged by the fact that you can't extinguish teammates, but the Man Melter kind of just sucks in general. You can flare punch people with the flare gun to build up Umph faster, or you can annoy them to death with a Scorch Shot and its stupid fucking AoE ability and slowly build up Umph. The shotgun and reserve shooter are viable choices if you're worried about pyros, or just really suck ass with the flare guns. Just remember that you won't be building Umph with the shotguns. As for melee weapons, the power jack is really the only decent choice you have, unless you want to be a pyro with a home wrecker. Also, I want to mention that the Phlog has a place in MVM, and that is exclusively for tank busting. Pyro is kind of a meme pick in MVM, and nobody ever seriously picks pyro, unless there's a tank in the wave. Phlog pyros can actually solo a tank in MVM, and that is quite literally the only reason to ever pick pyro in MVM. After that, do whatever the fuck you please with the Phlog. This is the correct way to use the Phlogistinator. Now go out there and walk at enemies who don't know what the fuck to do.